Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it's that eternal quest for glory that can be truly, truly strange. And if you're within the sound of my voice, you must be in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, influences, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things over here, and I'm assuming you do, you're here right now, you're listening, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it basically wherever you find your podcast. Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. It is all good. Plus, you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel at In the Seats. And to be honest, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to there too. You can follow us on social media as well. That'd be great. You can do that at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest movie news, reviews, some television, basically anything about the moving image, because that's kind of what we love to talk about and read about and write about, and we love it when you're reading about it. So please do us the kindness and come on by. Okay, on this episode, we got a fun one. It's more Hot Docs coverage because Hot Docs is running until May 9th at hotdocs.ca. So if you have an itch to check out some fantastic documentary cinema, I do recommend you go to that platform and check them out. The prices are reasonable, and there is a ton of great cinema out there that you really should start soaking up because it's important. And documentary cinema is important, and especially some of these stories that we're hearing from on this festival. This is a fun one. We're diving into a film called Cannon Arm and the Arcade Quest, and it's the story of a man. It's as they all are, but his name is Kim Cannonarm, and he's your grandpa, but he's not your average grandpa. He's got the hand-eye coordination that would make a 20-year-old gamer envious, and he's got a mullet to boot, which I'm sure is even bigger now, and given that none of us have had a haircut for a while. But he's a fixture at the Copenhagen Bip Bip Bar, which is a renowned spot for 80s arcade video games. And he played Gyrrus, and he's renowned there for playing Gyrrus once for 49 hours straight on one coin. And with the help of his buddies and at the bar and a bunch of outsiders these guys support each other no matter what. Kim really wants to shatter his previous record, and he wants to play an arcade video game for 100 consecutive hours on one coin. And it's so fascinating just to see this community come together, and it's a bunch of nerds, and they're geeking back and forth, and it's so much fun, but it really does highlight the importance of friendship and the importance of community, which especially right now during COVID is one of those things that we're probably yearning for the most. But we had the distinct pleasure of sitting down with director Mads Hedegaard to talk about sort of how he found these guys and got embedded with this motley crew and sort of discovered this story and really how he made something that came across as incredibly cinematic and big in this dark, dungy little bar in Copenhagen. But it's such a fun movie, and I do recommend you go check it out. But first, I would recommend you check out our talk with Mads because I hope it was a good one, and I hope you enjoy it because I know I did. Now, I mean, first off, congratulations on the movie. I absolutely loved it. Now, can you walk me through? I guess finding this motley crew in this arcade to tell your story.
Yeah, well, actually, I was in film school, and one of the technicians working at the film school was the co-owner of the arcade. And I got to know him and became friends with him, and he invited me down there, and I walked in the door and it was just like, wow, This is amazing. It was just like an explosion of colors and music, and just an amazing atmosphere. It was like walking into a different world, if you could say it like that. And to me, actually, it was a different world because I was never into gaming or and definitely not into arcade retro gaming. So it really was a new world for me to experience. And then I started to get to know the guys in the arcade, and I heard about Kim wanting to do this record attempt, and I thought, okay, this is amazing. That's a really good like basis for a story in the film, like a guy who sets out to achieve some kind of goal. Does he make it or not? And then and then when I started to really get to know the guys in the arcade, I was just completely sure that there was a film here. It was just a matter of how to make that film and how to approach it. Because in the beginning it was like I thought I was gonna do like a pure cinema variety kind of documentary,
right?
But I found out that pretty quickly that wasn't gonna work. I wasn't gonna be able to do that. I'm sure someone else could have, but I was quite sure I wouldn't be able to do that. Partly because Kim is such an introvert, so that was a challenge for me, and also like his goal is just to stand at a machine for a lot of hours and play a game. So I was trying to figure out how to make that exciting to an audience. So that was a challenge in the beginning, and then I realized, okay, why don't I use my own experience and like be in a way be the audience on a voyage through this world.
For sure.
So that was that when I figured that out, that I could use my own experience in this world that was new to me, I would be able to make a film for an audience that where the audience might not be the audience might not know that world as well.
Right.
But I really wanted to make a film where that wasn't an issue, where we could discover that world together in a way, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and I think you really succeed in that. I mean, particularly because, I mean, like you say, I think you said this in the film, Kim maybe says 250 words a day, so it's hard to sort of center around him as a subject. But I loved just sort of the support aspect that came out of the arcade, and just how everyone there was really supportive of his goals. And I'm kind of curious, was it a big sell for you to sort of get in and be allowed to shoot? Like, were they all comfortable with it, or did you have to sort of talk them into it?
It wasn't a big sell. It really felt very natural, because there was they might be introverts, some of them, and might, but at the same time they're just so warm and open to everyone. So and to me as well. And I was very honest about not knowing anything about their world, if you like the arcade world, and I didn't know anything about gaming or anything. And I think they respected that I was upfront about that. And then we just started bonding, and they've just been so open and generous. And I started to recognize different aspects in them, in myself, and that just made it a lot a lot more interesting for everyone, I think, involved, because we could have conversations about maybe not the actual games, but then other stuff like music and physics and what have you. That's in the film. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I love just sort of the purity of the fact that they're playing arcade games, and
Yeah.
just sort of how, like, just sort of not just the physical demands of standing there and doing it, but
Mhm.
just the purity of playing these old school games. And I'm kind of curious, how was sort of the research process for you on this film? Because especially going in blind, it must have been uh like opening up the door to a new world, to sort of really sort of go in depth on how seriously the guys in this world take it all.
Definitely, it was really like going into a different world, and learning a lot about all different kinds of stuff. Um, and and I guess my research wasn't, well, obviously I had to understand how the game worked and stuff like that, but that was actually the smallest part of everything. It was more I guess you can't really call that research, but to me it was more getting to know the people in the film, and getting to know them in a way that so I could tell the audience a story about them, so the audience gets a feeling that they get to know them. I think that was the biggest piece of research. That was getting to know them, and just hanging out and stuff like that. But also obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the film, and the whole visual side of it. I really had to dive back into the like 80s movies and stuff like that, because I hadn't really been paying attention to those kind of movies for a long time. I used to be more into like very artsy stuff like Haneke and
Right.
Tarkovsky and stuff like that. So I had to rediscover the whole 80s film scene again, if you could put it that way, and also all the Marvel movies and stuff like that. I've been watching a lot of them. So yeah, it's like research on a lot of different levels in order to get the feeling right and get the atmosphere right, and just make the portrait of these guys as true and as honest as I could.
Well, and I
Um,
mean, that does come through in the film, because I mean, obviously, like, you're laying the groundwork as we see some of the history of the games and just sort of some of the famous gamers. But the more we get to know Kim and everyone there, it really does take on this sort of unique visual aesthetic. And I'm kind of curious because, like you say, like, you had to sort of dive back into sort of the
mhm.
age when these movies were made. But like how did you go about just sort of even crafting some of the visuals? Because I mean, even with just some of the filters and with some of the just it
Right.
felt very almost like it was coming at a Tron kind of thing. You know what I mean? It felt very much like we were in a hazy sort of arcade as
Yeah.
watching the entire thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm really happy that that's the experience, because that was really what we were going for. I really wanted to give the audience who might not be familiar with retro arcades and stuff like that, um, give them the experience of being in a retro arcade, and try to give them the experience that Kim is having while playing for so long. So that was, I really wanted to point out how difficult it was for him to achieve this kind of thing, and just uh, basically just just have the guts to go for it in the first place, because it's so difficult and it's so hard. So that was really important to me, that we somehow could express some of that feeling that Kim was feeling while doing the record attempt. And then it was just very much my editor Mark Bugdal who who's just been incredible in the editing suite, coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas that I never thought about, and I'm sure he didn't think about them before he was sitting there and actually uh, doing it. So that collaboration has been extremely productive, I guess you could say.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the editing because I mean, I can imagine that, especially for you as a filmmaker, you would have had to sift through hours and hours of footage. I mean, I can imagine
Yeah,
you shot a lot of footage to sort of
yeah.
try to get the exact stuff that you want because I mean, while there's interesting stuff going on, I can imagine there's also some equally boring stuff going on of people just standing there playing video games.
I can assure you it was very boring at times for me and David, my photographer. So it was really also how do you put that? It was just an exercise in patience as well. When Kim was doing not only the big record attempts, but the I filmed quite a few of his training before, like he was playing only 36 hours, and I was there the whole time, and that's just incredibly boring to be on the side there with the camera and trying to and then once in a while there's something interesting happening, or there's an interesting expression, but it really is once in a while when it goes on for so long. So it really was an exercise in patience, but also in just trying to come up with creative ideas while you were, because you were standing there anyway, so
Mm.
you might as well just try to come up with some interesting stuff and some fun ideas, and some and try to put yourself in in Kim's mind, and try to figure out how he might be feeling at the moment, and
No, and I think
obviously also talking to him at the same time,
I think
asking.
I think you capture a lot of that, and I'm curious, have Kim and everyone there seen the film? Because I mean, I really think it does capture sort of the purity of sort of that environment and how much they love and appreciate it and sort of immerse
Yeah.
themselves in it.
Yeah, they did see the film and they absolutely love it. And I'm so pleased because it was so important to me that they could see themselves as individuals, but also as a community in the film. Um, so it wasn't my portrayal or my uh, looking at them, uh, and 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 they individually came up to me and said, "I'm so happy with how you portrayed Kim," or "I'm so happy how you portrayed me or the community," and they've just been so they've just been so happy with the film, and obviously I'm extremely happy and proud of that.
Well, you should be because it really highlights sort of the importance of community, and I think it's one of those things that's going to be very relatable for so many audiences, especially as more and more people see the film. But that's
I
it for
hope so.
me, and thank you so much for the time today, man. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.